everybody. Welcome back to the Health Bridge. I'm here with Dr. Pedram Shojai.
Hey, hi everybody. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, I am so excited because we have medical royalty with us today. We've got Dr. Mark Hyman. Mark, how are you?
I'm great.
So excited to have you.
Though. I'm more like, one of the worker bees.
Well, let me just recap some of your achievements, just so our listeners really understand why I say that. You are an 8-time New York Times bestselling author. Is that right? Am I caught up? Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
10 books, 2 of them didn't make it. They were cookbooks, but
You're the chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine, and you also just opened a functional medicine program at Cleveland Clinic. In fact, that's where I want to start today with you, Dr. Hyman. I want to ask you about, what are you doing over at the Cleveland Clinic? Like, how's it going? What's your mission? What's happening?
Yeah, well, my mission, as many of you know, is to change the face of medicine, change how we think about how we get sick and how to get better through the power of functional medicine to end needless suffering for millions of people through the understanding of how the body works, which is a very new paradigm, and through the power of community and social networks to heal and change behavior. And so that's really what I'm about. And so I was asked a couple of years ago by Toby Cosgrove to come to Cleveland to start a functional medicine center there. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to Cleveland, and I'm not being part of a big medical institution. And you guys have no idea what you're asking me to do, because if you really knew, you'd be running the other direction, because I want to disrupt everything you're doing. So, I figured I basically spent a year and a half explaining to him why it would be a bad idea for me to actually go to Cleveland to do this for them, because it was going to change everything about how we think about healthcare, medicine, and really our whole paradigm. But he was actually aware of that, and he was very interested in that. In fact, he said Cleveland is about innovation. The Cleveland Clinic is focused on innovation, change, and disruption, and they have so many initiatives, as I learned, that are already very disruptive. For example, they've done innovation in so many different areas of healthcare. They're looking at health IT, they're looking at the microbiome, they're looking at all sorts of dietary studies. They're doing a lot of things already that I wasn't even aware of. So they're way out ahead of the curve. And he saw the future of healthcare really being in functional medicine and being a new way to treat chronic illness by dealing with the root causes, by treating the system, not the symptoms, and by dealing with the whole organism, not just a bunch of organs. And he knows it's disruptive, and he's putting serious muscle power of Cleveland Clinic behind it by focusing on changing the way we do clinical medicine, changing the paradigm of actually how we deliver care, the kind of medicine we do in the clinic, as well as changing the research paradigm to show how we treat systems, not symptoms, and diseases, and how that actually works better to shift costs and create value in care. And we're also working on changing the medical education by working with the medical school there to change how we treat medical students and residents and postgraduate education, to really bring in the concepts of systems medicine, to bring in nutrition education in medical schools. And we met with the dean. And we're also working on community levels, working with local churches and schools and community organizations to really expand the concept of healthcare being the clinic and the doctor's office and the hospital to being the larger community where health happens. So we're working on all those levels, and then we ultimately hope that we'll be able to change policy using this approach and get actually the right things paid for, which right now they don't.
That's fantastic. So for those of you guys who are listening who aren't familiar with Dr. Hyman's work, and obviously he's prolific and he's been doing a lot of work, and he's like royalty with boots on the ground, because he's out there like cooking in people's houses, and you're doing heavy lifting, man.
Yeah. I was in Florida working with this family that we're doing a segment with the Oz Show called The Solomons, and they lost 100 pounds in 3 weeks. And I went down, we showed them how to cook some meals, and it was just stunning. Showed them actually they could walk around their hobby farm and exercise. They were like really so grateful for the opportunity to actually have some straightforward, clear instruction on how to live better. Because, despite what we think, a lot of people don't have the right information and want to do the right thing, but actually don't know what it is.
Well, that's just it. And so, your average person goes and sits in these waiting rooms, and they get, 3 minutes with a doctor who throws a prescription at them and isn't talking about any of this stuff, let alone coming over and cooking with them. So when we're talking about revolutionizing medicine, and we're talking about, doing this ground up approach, I would love for you to just elaborate a little bit more on how this functional medicine paradigm is going to be the future of how we engage with health. Because it's really health instead of disease management in a lot of ways.
That's right. I always say functional medicine is the science of creating health. And in many ways, it's really about self-health. It's really learning the principles of creating health for yourself. And when you create health, disease goes away as a side effect. In fact, in functional medicine, we don't actually treat disease directly. We actually create optimal function in the body in all the basic systems. And when we do that, disease has no place to go. Disease is really the body's best attempt to deal with a bad set of circumstances. When we change those circumstances, health occurs. And we don't actually treat it directly. Like we did, for example, in Saddleback Church, we took 15,000 people in Rick Warren's church and we put them on a healthy living program based on functional medicine, along with peer support, which is also part of the concept of using social networks and love. It's really called the love diet, to help people change their behavior. And that actually, with real food and the love diet, got them to lose 250,000 pounds in a year. And it wasn't just the weight that was the issue, is that all these other problems went away. Their reflux, their asthma, their migraines, their autoimmune diseases, their digestive issues, their depression, their skin problems, their acne, their mood changed. All these things shifted, not by treating them directly, but by simply creating the conditions for health. And that's the power of functional medicine. So there are people who need what I call tertiary care of functional medicine, which is they need to see somebody like me who's had 20 years of experience, who knows how to really dissect and decipher really significant imbalances. But for most people, it's really just a few days away. You know, I wrote this book called The 10-Day Detox Diet, which is really designed to give people a very quick, really reset, a reboot. It's like resetting your hormones, your immune system, and your brain chemistry in 10 days. And most people have no clue how that feels. Most people have actually never done 10 days of shift in their life to see actually when you take away the bad stuff and put in the good stuff, what happens. And people are shocked. They go, oh my God, you know, my arthritis went away. My migraines went away. I lost this much weight. I mean, one guy I met the other day, he said his cholesterol came down 100 points and his triglycerides 300 points, and his lifelong asthma and his reflux went away. He'd been taking 4 packs of Rolaids a day in 10 days. So when you actually give people the tools, people can do it themselves. Most chronic problems will go away without a doctor. And by the way, we don't have enough doctors to take care of anybody anymore. Globally, we're in a huge global shortage of doctors. But even in this country, we're down about 145,000 healthcare practitioners within the next few years because we don't have enough doctors to take care of all the people who are in the system.
You know, this is so powerful, Mark. And I want to put in a plug for your latest book, The 10-Day Detox Diet, because I think it's such a powerful shift for people. I've had a lot of people go through it. In fact, I've got a very dear friend who was part of your beta group, and she had such a profound experience. I want to ask you about something I heard you say last month at IFM. You were giving a talk, and
I'm sorry we didn't hang out more. I wanted to talk to you.
I know.
I
know. I wanted to ask you about a slide that you had in your presentation where you were talking about how one study that was done looking at American medical schools, that 1 in 3 is actually allowing their students to have the required number of hours of nutrition.
Yeah.
So we're really struggling, I think.
25%, yeah, actually.
Less than 25%.
And the numbers are going down. Like the percent of schools actually providing the recommended amount of nutrition education, according to the National Academy of Sciences, is getting nutrition education. And of that, most of that education is about stuff that doesn't matter here, like malnutrition or, you know, rickets or kwashiorkor, marasmus, or weird things that, you know, we don't see in this country. So they're really about diseases that we had 100 years ago, not what we have now. And nobody understands using food as medicine. I mean, the course Food is Medicine doesn't exist. The course How to Create a Healthy Human 101 just doesn't exist.
Well, we need to change that. And so my question for you is
about... I'm on.
Write another book.
Give me till next semester. I'm almost there.
Well, I want some specifics because I feel like you have taken on American physicians as well. I mean, not only are you helping the consumer, but you're helping American physicians turn the corner. And I wonder if you could share with us some of your strategies for how to get them, you know, how do we build that bridge and how do we get them to come our way?
Yeah. You know, we just have to open the door. I mean, I'm the chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine, and you were at that course. We're sold out. We can't keep up with the demand. We close our courses. We're sold out. I mean, I have practitioners in my own practice, and I'm the chairman of the institute that I want to send to the courses. And the staff there say, sorry, Mark, you know, we have no room. Like, I can't even get someone you want into the course. And it's like, I'm the chairman of the institute. So that's how oversold we are, and that's a good thing because there's a huge demand and there's a huge interest. And I believe there's a tipping point right now where at the Cleveland Clinic, and we're going to ferret them out. I think there's a lot of sleepers within the Cleveland Clinic and in every healthcare institution of doctors who are focused on this, who want to do this, who are interested, who are passionate, who care, and yet they don't have the tools and they don't know where to go and they don't understand what's available. So what we're going to do at Cleveland is we're going to invite them to come out of the closet to, really show up and participate in the transformation that's happening. And at the same level, we're also trying to build a scalable platform for education because, we only have 50 maybe or so faculty at the Institute for Functional Medicine. So we need to create a digital, scalable e-learning platform for functional medicine.
Amen.
I want to speak to that real quickly because it turns out we have a lot of doctors that listen to our show. We get a lot of emails and people saying, hey, this is really interesting. This is new to me. And a lot of them are isolated in parts of the country and parts of the world where, it's this conveyor belt medicine and they're stuck playing that. And no wonder they don't like their jobs and no one wants, we don't have enough doctors because that, that model obviously sucks. And it's not good for the patient. It's not good for the doctor. I don't know who it's good for, probably the insurance company or somebody. But we want to create an opportunity for them to understand that their skills are wonderfully relevant. They just need a little tweak in orientation to understand how to be health-oriented instead of disease-oriented on the front interface. So IFM is wonderful for that.
It's great. Yeah, here's the problem we're trying to solve in Cleveland is that there's a disconnect between what works and what gets paid for. What gets paid for now is volume, is how many widgets we can put through the system, and that's what we get paid for. How many patients you see, how many procedures you do. It doesn't matter what comes out the other end if it's a healthy person or not, right? What we need to do is change from volume to value-based reimbursement. Value means how much better did the patient get and how much did it cost? So it's like if they got a lot better at little cost, then that's something we want to actually pay for. Right now we're sort of in a no man's land where we're getting paid to do the wrong things, not to do the right things. So we want to have nutrition. We believe that food is medicine. Flat out, I cannot treat people without using food. In my practice at the Ultra Wellness Center, you cannot get an appointment with the doctor unless you agree to see the nutritionist because it's part of the treatment. At Cleveland Clinic, we tried to implement that, and we found out that on an insurance-based system, you can only get paid to see a patient if you're a nutritionist if the patient has type 2 diabetes already, not to prevent it, or if they have renal failure, kidney failure. Nobody else will get reimbursed for a nutrition visit, which means that we can't actually use the medicine that we think is the best medicine for most chronic disease because insurance won't pay for it. So then we're trying to can we get the nutrition visits shorter? Can we do this? Can we do that? What we need to do is just change the whole paradigm. So what's great about the Cleveland Clinic is they're funding that gap between where we are now and where we want to be, and we're going to prove through looking at the total cost of care actually how much money we're saving. Because if we actually implement cooking classes and group support and nutrition visits and health coaching and lifestyle management, and we go into people's communities and we teach them how to cook and all that's reimbursed, and we create a model for people to really get better, and we save half the cost of healthcare of a population, guess what? It costs us a lot to do that. We lose. The insurance company wins because we just saved them $50 million. We're trying to create a model of shared cost savings where the doctors and the healthcare providers who are creating these innovative programs to help people get healthy actually get paid for what they do and for the results, so that there's some shared cost savings. So the insurance company's not laughing all the way to the bank saying, great, thanks for doing that program. You got my patients healthy. Now I get to keep all the premiums. I don't have to pay any insurance bills, right? So we're trying to shift all that. And it's a really screwy system. And as I found out in Cleveland, nobody knows the whole story. I thought, gee, somebody would know in health IT and technology and finance actually how much the total cost of a patient's care is. We have no idea. No idea, because providers don't share information with the payers and the payers don't share with the providers. And there's this iron curtain there. Maybe it's a green curtain. I don't know.
This is so powerful. I'm
excited about all this. Sorry.
I get excited because the outcomes data you're talking about is really what we've been missing. And it's such a thrill for me that you have the stakeholders' attention at Cleveland Clinic. It's just absolutely thrilling. I want to ask you, because I feel like the subtext here as you talk and as you get our listeners excited about the future of medicine, I feel like this role as a change agent and the disruption that you do. In fact, I even heard you at one conference say that you're the chief troublemaker.
I did say that. I just tried to put on my business card at Cleveland Clinic. They wouldn't put that on there.
Well, maybe after you show that you've reduced the total cost of someone's care. So I want to ask you, where does this come from? Like, how did you become the chief disruptor, the chief troublemaker? Like, what happened inside of you that led to this leadership, this vision, and becoming a change agent?
I think I was kind of born this way a little bit. I was always off, a little odd. I have ODD. You know what that is?
Odd.
I'm odd, yeah. and I think most of us in this field are a little ODD.
Totally.
And I think that when I was younger, I just was really saw the things that were wrong with the world, and I really was passionate about rethinking how we can deal with these big problems. Whether it's how we grow our food, or how we create health, or how we deal with injustice in the world, and it's something I always really cared about, and I worked on throughout college and even through medical school. So it's something I've always been passionate about. And then when I personally got sick, after I went through medical school, I had to figure out how to get better. And that illness and the subsequent struggle to get better really kind of made me angry, because I realized that I didn't have the whole story, and that the things that I was learned in medical school, while they were helpful and as a good foundation, weren't the whole picture of the disease. And that through my own sort of dissecting of my own illness, literally cell by cell, system by system, I discovered how functional medicine worked and how to fix myself and how to fix my patients. And I get very angry that not everybody has access to this. I'm having breakfast this morning in town, and one of her friends introduced me to this guy. He's like, my wife has these terrible migraines. She's seen everybody. Can you help her? And I'm like, yeah, in my sleep. And why is it so freaking hard to get people like this help? So that's my problem is, and now I feel like I have to see everybody, because like a lot of the problems people are suffering from are just needless problems. Like it's not like it's like if you have some weird tumor and I can't help you. Like if you have some weird brain cancer, good luck figuring out how to do it and deal with whatever you need to do, but I can't help you. But if you have most of the problems that we see today, 85%, I think 84% of our healthcare costs are due to chronic disease. 1 in 2 Americans has some form of chronic disease. 1 in 2 Americans has prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. In Mexico, 1 in 10 kids has adult onset diabetes, not prediabetes. So we're just, it's out of control. And yet we have the solutions for those things that are simple. And someone came to me with like hives. They've had hives for 15 years, where they eat anything and their face swells up and they're itchy and they're miserable, and it's like an awful existence. And she's going to be better in 2 weeks. And it's like I could do it in my sleep. It's not that I'm super smart. It's just that I have the right map, and I have the right set of thinking about how to fix this. And it just really part of my passion is really being very angry about why the way we know things really work is not getting actually into practice. Why the science isn't becoming practice or policy.
So you've actually gotten an army of people that you guys are training so that you're not the chief problem solver for everyone you run into with a migraine,
yes,
which is wonderful, right? But I think we'd be remiss having a conversation with you and not talking about this one particular word, sugar. Because that's kind of a big part of your gestalt, and you've really declared war on sugar, and it's so everywhere that I'd love to just get you to speak about that for a second, and I think that has a lot to do with why a lot of us are suffering, according to Dr. Mark Hyman.
Yeah, I mean, sugar. Everybody, at this point, everybody kind of has the word on sugar that if they have not been listening, it's bad for you, right? So, and we had a paradigm shift in the last few years where everybody thought that fat was the enemy, that fat was a 4-letter word, that was fat that made you fat. And then we eat low fat to lose weight and get healthy and reverse heart disease and everything else. Turns out that was not true. And it's very unfortunate that the word fat that we eat in our diet is the same as the fat things we call in our body fat, because they're not the same. Even though, we talk about them in the same way. The fat you eat doesn't actually end up as fat in your body. The sugar you eat ends up as fat in your body. And so we've had this paradigm shift where we're really rethinking how our metabolism works and what actually is driving weight gain and all the subsequent problems that happen as a result of sugar, which we now know include not only obesity, not only type 2 diabetes, but it's the major cause of heart attacks, not fat. It's one of the major causes of dementia. We call it type 3 diabetes, which is what we call Alzheimer's. It's a major cause of strokes, of cancers, many, many cancers that we see as common, like colon cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, liver cancer. A lot of these are caused by prediabetes. In fact, one of the number one causes of liver transplants in this country now is sugar. Is the amount of soda people are eating. It's actually outstripping hepatitis C as a major cause of liver transplants. I saw a gastroenterologist who told me that he takes care of obese kids. I said, why? He says, well, because we are now doing liver transplants on 12-year-olds who've been living on soda their whole life.
Wow.
And so it also causes depression. It causes infertility and even acne. So it's really a driver of so much of the problems we see as the major illnesses, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia. Those are the big ones. And yet it's really not addressed. And so our government has really not come out and said, we need to be dealing with this. In fact, the NIH is still telling us to eat low fat and serve low fat this and low fat that and have, sugary yogurts. I mean, this is what our own government is still telling us. So there's a big disconnect. And a lot of it has to do with the food industry, which, has created 600,000 industrial food products, 80% of which have sugar. And we have 152 pounds of sugar we eat every year and 146 pounds of flour per person. That's about a pound of flour and sugar for every man, woman, and child. And that's a pharmacologic dose. That's not I call it recreational use and, abuse. Recreational use is, you have a cookie once in a while. You have some sugar, but you know what you're eating. This is pharmacologic doses. We have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. People don't know that their morning yogurt has more sugar than a can of Coke, or that their serving of tomato sauce on their pasta has more sugar than 2 Oreo cookies. They have no clue that it's in everything, that it's in barbecue sauce, it's even in bread. If you go by, you think, well, why should they put sugar in bread? It's already flour. They actually put sugar, high fructose corn syrup in bread. And so we have a huge problem with the food policy in this country and the food system in general, which is driving this glut of 500 extra calories per person, mostly in the form of high fructose corn syrup, into our diet. And I wrote the foreword recently for a new book called The Real Food Revolution by Tim Ryan, who's a congressman, talking about how we need to change the food system. It's not just about what people eat, it's about the food we grow, it's about how we grow it, it's about the antibiotics and hormones we use, about the GMO foods, about subsidies and supporting big industrial farms and not small farmers. It's about all these issues that are real. It's about how we supply food policy in this country, whether we provide our kids with real food in schools or not, what we do in terms of our dietary guidelines, our FDA policies. All those things are driving this disease epidemic and this glut of sugar. And we're not actually coming out and saying sugar's bad. So the movie Fed Up, which I encourage everybody to see, came out last fall, and it's last year, and it's just out on DVD, and it's on Netflix and iTunes and all that. And it's a phenomenal movie. Not just because I'm in it, because I'm like one of the stars, but it's fun. It's fun. I have a great line in the movie. Forget about it. Like, when I say, the industry wants you to believe that it's calories in, calories out, it's all about energy balance, and people just ate less and exercise more, everything would be fine. I'm saying forget about it, because it's all calories are not the same. Sugar calories actually drive more weight gain and disease than everything else. They slow your metabolism, they make you hungry, and they cause fat storage. So you're in a triple whammy when you have sugar, whereas if you have good quality fat and protein, you're actually speeding up metabolism, you're decreasing hunger, and you're losing fat and burning fat. So all those things are really important to understand, and we have to really shift our awareness. And that's what the 10-day detox diet is about. It's about unhooking from the addiction to sugar. And that's what people don't realize. And it's like highly addictive. I mean, if you look at what happens in animal studies, they basically take rats and they put them on a electric shock pad and they shock them while they're drinking sugar, and they keep eating it even while they're getting shocked, right? So it's kind of crazy. If they can choose cocaine or sugar, they always go for the sugar.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a new drug that came out. I don't know if you heard about this, Sarah, called Contrave by this drug company, and it's a combination of 2 old drugs because nobody's figured anything new out in a long time. And it's the drug, it's an antidepressant plus a drug called naltrexone, which is a drug we use in the ER to block the effects of heroin when someone comes in with a heroin overdose. So the idea is if you block the effect of a heroin-like substance, namely sugar in the brain, which acts just like heroin, you actually will stop cravings and help people lose weight. Well, okay, but like, if you read the side effects, it can cause seizures and this and that and death and like suicide. And I'm like, there's a lot better ways to do it. Try the 10-day detox.
Right, do the 10-day detox. I mean, I feel like it's analogous to the Pringles study. Like it's very hard for me to encourage people to eat Pringles because it reduces body burden. I think same sort of concept with Contrave. I want to ask you.
They do? Pringles
They
are good.
do. I'll send you the study.
Pringles. They're all like the same size and shape. They fit nice in that box.
I love your use of irony. So I want to ask you another.
I used to use the whole thing.
I'm going to ask you another personal question. So everyone you meet, I think, Tim Ryan, Food Babe, me, we all ask you to write forwards to our book because your message is so powerful. It's so fresh. You are articulate like nobody else in this country. I want to ask you about how you take care of yourself and specifically about your gene environment interface. What are some of the epigenetic influences that you're really excited about right now in your own life? And maybe start by explaining what is epigenetics.
Well, I mean, epigenetics is how you influence your gene expression, right? So you can basically not change your genes. You've got a fixed set of genes, but you can change which ones get turned on or off, which signals get upregulated or downregulated, and literally change who you are by changing the expression of your genes. So it's all about that. It's what food does. It's what love does. All of it is doing that all the time. Your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences. Every moment has an influence on literally your gene expression with every single bite, with every single thought. So I'm very conscious of how I choreograph my experience. Every day is like a canvas in my mind, and I never get it back, and it's like a painting, and I want to make sure it's beautiful. So I make sure that I do the things that I love, and I do the things I care about, and I'm present in the ways that matter to me. So I do a lot of things to take care of myself, but I have my go-to things, which is yoga, exercise, real food, and getting enough sleep, being with people I love, and hugs and kisses really are high on the list, and then again, occasional tequila. So
yes.
Oh my gosh. So Mark, I feel like as we start to wrap up, I want to tell people how to learn more about you, and I could send them to about 20 different places. Functionalmedicine.org, drhyman.com. I could send them to the Fed Up website, but if you had to just pick one place for our listeners to go, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things I would suggest. If people want to get an experience quickly of how to feel better, and the reason I wrote the 10-day detox diet was to really give people a shock, to go, wow, I can actually feel this good in this short of time. There's a connection between how I feel and what I'm eating and what I'm doing. So I encourage people to go to 10daydetox.com, and there's 2 challenges we have where it's sort of like a community-based, group-based program where we coach you through it that are starting on October 16th and December 4th. And people can sign up for those and look at the work that we do and just sort of be part of the community and actually get the experience of what it's like to transform.
Awesome.
In fact, I had, just so you know, I had the entire executive team. I didn't actually initiate it, but the CEO initiated the entire executive team at Cleveland Clinic did the 10-day detox.
Right on. What happened?
They all loved it. It was amazing. Except I gave them all a talk on day 3, which was really a bad idea. But they were so. You want to give them like day 7, 8 when they're just flying, and
That's fantastic. Look, you're out there doing it. I love the fact that you're still a man of the people, right? And like no matter what you're doing with congressmen or all this, you're really working with people, showing them how to make a difference. And that's where the prevention on the food side is really where the rubber hits the road. And so I want to thank you for that, because that's like the superior physician gets his hands dirty, right? And so we highly encourage you guys check out.
At least I get garlic.
Yeah, totally. So we highly encourage you guys to check out Dr. Hyman's work, and we'd love to have you back on the show and just keep up with you. You're doing it, and we're just happy to call you a friend and keep up the good work.
Anytime. My next book's coming out soon on fat, so stay tuned.
Yay! Tell us about that. So that's coming out
2016. 2016.
Okay.
2016.
I have a 10-day detox cookbook coming out in March 2015, and then this coming out 2016.
Awesome.
Love it.
And then both these guys are in Our Origins movie coming out in November. So you'll see him talking about all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we're not leaving him alone. We're chasing him around. We love his message. So get used to him.
I'm actually coming back to California near you to do a Daniel Plan shoot on the the 14th of November.
Are you?
Yep.
I would love to hang out. We'll chat offline. I'd love to see you. You're going to be 2 miles away from me.
Okay. All right, pal.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
We'll see you next time. And give us love on our Facebook page and meet us over on healthbridgeshow.com, wherever you want to find us. We'd love to see comments on this, and we'll connect you with more resources from Dr. Hyman there if you have questions. All right. See you next time.
Thank you, Mark. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Good to see you.
Thanks.